I'm doing great, Donna. How are you today?
Good. Cold.
Yes, it is cold. It's hard to
It's-
believe it's May, isn't it?
It's May 10th, and it feels like it is, what, March?
Yes.
I mean, we had a freeze the other night. I have on a hoodie, and I'm still cold, so yeah, I am ready for serious spring. I don't know about you.
I am also.
Yeah. I mean, I guess in all reality, I shouldn't complain. It's not freezing temps for the most part, and the sun has been shining often. So, but it would be nice to have some summer temps, or approaching summer temps, hopefully this next week.
I agree. So, what are we talking about today?
Today, we are going to pick your brain on how to choose a handyman.
Oh, okay. Sounds good.
Yeah. So we've been in the business a long time, and we know that not all contractors, handymen, service providers are created equal.
This is true.
Yeah, would you say? And so there's a lot of things that set different businesses apart. And so today we want to help our listeners know how to choose the right handyman. You hear horror stories of, people choosing a contractor of any sorts, and then they get left with unsatisfactory work. They've paid for things that the contractor didn't deliver on, or various other horror stories. And so we want to save our listeners that headache and heartache, and give them some solid information on how to choose a good handyman.
Sounds good.
Yeah, and a lot of the advice we're going to give today will transfer over to other service providers as well.
Well, sure, it applies. It applies everywhere.
Yeah.
It's hard. It isn't just handymen that fall into this. Really, any contractor can have problems like this. So.
Sure. For those of you that are watching this on YouTube and maybe have been following us online, just so you know, Phil is sitting, I am standing. So I am not taller than Phil. He's a large man. And so just want to make sure you know that. So anyway, so Phil, can you start us off with some things that people should maybe start with when seeking a handyman?
Yes. Well, I think the first thing that's most important is to have a good idea of what you're wanting to have done.
Okay.
And then, with that, you can begin your search for someone who's capable of doing the type of project you're wanting done. So, I guess if you're looking for a handyman and you're wanting a room addition built on your house, handyman's probably not the best choice
Oh, sure.
for that type of work.
Sure.
So understand what, the scope of work you're wanting done, and search for the appropriate contractor. The second thing that's important is, to look for someone who has been around for a while and has a good track record. I understand that, everybody has to start in business at some time, but understand what the type of person you're looking at, and understand what their capabilities, try to understand what their capabilities might be, what their experience might be. And, other than that, just you want to do your due diligence and, know who you're looking to hire and get estimates from.
Sure. So if, we narrow down that we know that we need a handyman, this is for, repair work, updating things, not big construction projects. So where should we start? I personally love the referral aspect of it, that if you've done business with people, and you've been happy, if I've been happy with the service provided, then those, I'm going to share that information. So probably a good place to start would be with your family and friends and ask around, hey, who do you know? You agree with that, or?
Well, yes, to a point. That's not the only thing you should do.
No, this is step one.
Step one. So referrals from people who may have used others in the past is not a bad place to look. But just understand that's not the only thing you should do, because there are plenty of people who've gotten burned by someone's referral.
Yeah, so let's just make sure you and I are on the same page here. this is a process. It's not a one thing. It's not one thing you do that ensures that you've got a good experience with your handyman. There's a process of things that maybe you should check out. So to start with family and friends and say, hey, do you had any, do you know anybody that does this sort of work, and what's been your experience? But then if you get a name like that, you don't stop there. You don't just take their word for it. There are lots of other things that we can do to research that person, correct?
Absolutely. I mean, you'd want to go online and check them out, see what kind of reviews they have from others, and check the Better Business Bureau.
Right.
And see if there's been any complaints against them. So just, you want to do a thorough check to see, what kind of reputation they have, and don't just rely on a Facebook recommendation or, a family recommendation.
Right, right.
I really, would say be careful, in particular, about taking recommendations from family members, because that can be a source of some tough Thanksgiving dinners if you have a bad experience and a family member recommended a person. So you really want to make sure you check people out, even if a family member recommends them.
Okay. So when you talk about reviews, whenever I look online at reviews, even on Amazon, you'll have, great reviews, and then all of a sudden this review that's like, whoa, it's completely contrasting everything else, every other review out there. What's your thoughts on the review aspect as people are reviewing that? Because we know, being in business, that no matter what you do, sometimes people are going to just think they've not been treated properly. So
So what you're looking for is a pattern of things. So you're right. There sometimes sometimes people just make a mistake, and somebody might have an issue and write you a bad review. And in that case, you'd want to know how it was handled, right? If you resolved a situation, or if you tried to resolve a situation. And sometimes there are just nasty people out there that will write you a bad review. But you're looking for a pattern. So if you see a lot of bad reviews, then that's a bad sign that maybe there's a problem there. If you're looking, honestly, when you look online for reviews for most contractors, very few of them have more than 10 reviews.
Right.
There'll be a couple that'll have a lot more than that, and then most of them will have 10 or fewer.
So how important is that?
Well, there's two reasons why that happens. And one reason is most contractors just don't really care about reviews, about getting reviews. So they're not asking for them. They're not being, proactive in getting reviews. And other contractors, it's extremely important to them. At Rapid Repair Pro, that's, highly important to us. We want to know how you feel about the work we did. And we love that feedback. Some contractors don't care. So when you're looking at a contractor and they have, 5 reviews, and, one of them is bad, then that's a red flag, because that's, 1 out of 5
Right.
weren't happy. But you also want to, when you look at reviews, you want to look at, especially on a negative review, you want to look at what was written. I mean, some reviews you can bad reviews you can look at, and you can kind of get a sense, this person's probably a little bit wacko.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to kind of take them with a grain of salt to some extent. I would look for things like in bad reviews, like red flags, like, they didn't show up, or they didn't do the work, or, they broke something in my house, or they kicked my dog.
Yeah, that'd be a big one.
Things like that. So I would definitely add more weight to those type of negative reviews.
Okay, all right. What about interviewing various handymen? Is that something that you would recommend, to have a couple people come out and give estimates, or what?
I know that for years and years and years, it's always been, hey, get at least 3 estimates on everything you want to have done. The problem with that, I don't believe that serves you well as a consumer, and the reason being, it puts you in a mindset, I'm shopping for price. So you get 3 estimates, a lot of people won't really take the time to do the due diligence on the people that they're getting estimates from. They'll just get 3 estimates and they'll pick the lowest one. Well, that sets you up for a lot of heartache. And
Get what you pay for sometimes, keep that in mind.
absolutely. I mean, there's an old saying that there's 3 things. There's price, there's quality, and there's probably not, I can't even think of the third thing.
Customer service?
Yeah, price, quality, and service. You can only have 2 of the 3. Okay, you can't get all 3.
Okay.
Okay, so if you're looking for the cheapest price, you might get lucky and get
Quality
or service, but you're not going to get both. If you're looking for the best quality, you're not going to get the cheapest price, probably, right?
Right.
If you're looking for the best service, so that's the old saying. So just keep that in mind. And instead of requesting 3 people, I would first look for 1 or 2 really good, great people with great reviews, people with a lot of reviews, people with a good track record. And then find someone you're comfortable with, meet them, talk to them on the phone, get a feel for what kind of person they are personally, and then just request a quote from them. If you think the price is high, then go to the next person and see what the price is on there. I don't think it's necessary to waste a lot of time getting a bunch of quotes.
Okay.
Especially not, if I was building a room addition, then yeah, I'd interview a couple of contractors and get a feel for them and make sure they're great people. And then I would get a couple of quotes on that. But on smaller handyman repair jobs, I personally don't think it's worth your time.
Okay. All right. What about list of references? I guess the reviews suffices that?
I think that's sufficient.
Yeah, because they're your real customers.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, most people nowadays, they're not going to get, they're not going to ask for personal references. But if that makes you feel more comfortable, you can ask for them. I wouldn't rely too heavily on them. I mean, how do you really know this person that you're calling as a reference? Is it just a friend of the contractor that's just,
Right.
again, you're not going to remember or whatever. So I would rely more on online
Okay.
reviews.
Okay. All right. Here's a big one for me. Well, let me back up. The one thing I want to add to that, whenever we're talking about interviewing different handymen or whether or not to get 3 different bids, in our radon service, the radon mitigation, that's typically the mindset of our consumer, is that they get a list of names and they're gonna get prices from all 3. And that's all fine and dandy, but we're not the cheapest radon mitigator. We're also not the most expensive, but we're not the cheapest. But there's a common theme that I hear from our customers that choose us is that, well, I chose you because you guys answer your phone. That's a big thing too. If you cannot reach your contractor, they're going to be a headache to you in that whole process.
Yes.
And so, we make it a priority that we have dedicated people that answer our phones, whether it's during business hours or after business hours. We have people that answer our phones all the time. And so even just picking up the phone and trying to reach contractors and determining how easy or hard they are to get a hold of, if you can't get a hold of them to ask them to do work for you, how hard is it going to be to get a hold of them when they are doing work for you, once they've got that? Because to me, contractors should be always hungry enough and eager enough to serve you that they're going to pick up their phone and take care of you from day one. But if you can't get a hold of them before you've hired them, you're probably not going to be able to get a hold of them after you've hired them.
Yeah, that blows my mind. I mean, why would you want to deal with somebody who will not return a call? I mean, I understand most handymen are single guys working in a truck. They're busy. It's hard to answer the phone. But hey, there are companies out there for $100 a month will answer your phone and schedule appointments for you. So there's really no excuse for not answering your phone and talking to customers.
Right.
How you operate a business like that? It blows my mind.
Totally agree.
And why, as a consumer, you would want to deal with that?
Absolutely, I totally agree. Okay, here's a big one. that people need to know about the contractor or the handyman that they choose. And this is a big deal to me personally, are they properly insured?
Yeah, that's a big one.
And do they pay taxes? So are they a real business, or are they a chuck in a truck, as we call them? A chuck in a truck is someone who, hops along from job to job, sticks the cash in their pocket, doesn't pay taxes, doesn't have insurance, and leaves you, the consumer, at risk for everything. You call a handyman out there, he does some electrical work, your house catches on fire, he's not insured, guess who pays for that?
Or he gets hurt,
Or he gets hurt.
and then suddenly you're on the hook for all of his lost wages and medical bills because he didn't
Absolutely.
have insurance. So
Absolutely.
I don't think most people really take that into consideration. They don't understand the risk that they take by hiring uninsured contractors.
Agree.
So it's really important that you make sure that the person who's working in your home has general liability insurance and workers' compensation insurance.
Absolutely.
So, you can ask for certificates of insurance to make sure you're covered, and don't just ask them. Don't get it from the contractor. It has to come from their insurance company.
Absolutely.
It has to have your name on it
Absolutely.
as an additional insured.
Absolutely. So hear us on
Otherwise,
that.
you could be out of luck.
Absolutely. Hear us on that. So if you want to make sure your contractor's insured, but don't get the certificate of insurance directly from them, because, and here's why, they can get a certificate of insurance today from their insurance company and hand it to you. And it could be the same certificate of insurance they're handing out for the next 6 months, but they could have stopped paying on that 4 months ago.
Right.
But yet that certificate of insurance that they got 6 months ago does not reflect that. So make sure you get the certificate of insurance from their insurance company and that your name is on it to show that they are covered while in your home. And please, please, please don't put yourself at risk. That is one of those things where you get what you pay for. If you're going to go with the cheapest guy, insurance isn't free, so they've got to cover those costs somewhere. So please, I can't stress that enough.
Yeah, and God forbid something happens and your house burns down or they get hurt or whatever, and they're not insured. You're on the hook for it, and good luck suing them.
Right,
because they don't have anything.
Right.
They work day by day to earn money every day. These guys don't have money to buy you a new house if they don't have insurance. So
Exactly, and that is also why you need to be careful if you're getting 3 bids or 2 bids, what have you, that you are comparing contractors that are at the same level, and you don't necessarily know that at that point.
Right.
So, just because they're the cheapest, it doesn't mean that they're playing in the same field as the other contractors. So those are just some words of caution. Remember, we're doing this topic to save you some heartache and stress, and we definitely hope to be able to do that. What about a contract? Do you think handymen should have contracts for the work they do?
Well, legally, anytime you have, it's in Illinois anyway, anytime you do work that's over $1,000, you have to have a signed contract. That's a state law in the state of Illinois. Anything less than that, you're not required. I don't think on small repair jobs a detailed written contract is really necessary. However, you should have something in writing that details, what the scope of work is and what the price is. So when you talk about a detailed written contract, that can go all the way of, everything that could possibly be involved in a construction project. You're talking more like a remodeling job then.
Sure.
But if you're coming in, you're having a handyman, he's gonna replace some faucets, or he's gonna put in a GFI outlet, or he's gonna fix a handrail or whatever. As long as you have something written that says, I'm gonna do A, B, C, and D, and I'm gonna charge you this much, then
That's enough.
and that's signed, that's good enough.
Okay. What about warranty? Do handymen typically provide warranty on the work they do?
No, handyman, I would say typically don't, but at Rapid Repair Pro, we offer a 1-year warranty on all of our work.
Okay, all right, good to know. That's awesome. So what about the handyman that is hard to get on their schedule. Their schedule's really full. The good thing, bad thing, what's your take on the handyman that has a really full schedule?
Well, that's a sign that they're
In demand?
in demand. They might be good, right?
Yeah.
If they're busy and, it's hard to get on their schedule, sometimes it's worth waiting a little while for the right person, especially if you checked them out, they got good reviews, people like them, the word's out that they do good work, their prices are reasonable,
Right.
And they're busy, that's a good sign.
Yeah, good. So as we were talking today, a story comes to mind of one of your consistent customers that calls you for various things, and I got to meet her recently, which was a pleasure to get to meet her. But she was interviewing several contract handymen. They're elderly, they need some help, they both have some health problems, and so their home needed quite a bit of things. And so handyman number one showed up. Well, okay, let's just get to the chase. Phil was not the cheapest. Were you the most expensive?
I think so.
He was not the cheapest, but his competition showed up, and he smelled of alcohol, and he had told her that he went to lunch and had a beer. So those little details are really important to pay attention to. The vehicle they show up in, what's their appearance, how do they look, how professional are they, and what do they do on their lunch break? I know I don't want someone taking a lunch break and coming to my house after they've had a couple of adult beverages and then coming back to work on my home. Now, I don't have a problem with somebody having adult beverages, but I don't think it's necessary at lunchtime, and I don't want you working on my house after you've had those. So that story sticks out in my mind as she shared that with me. So she chose Phil, and she is happy that she chose Phil. And they've been working consistently over there, giving them peace of mind in their home. So there's a lot to pay attention to. Again, not all handymen are created equal, and not all contractors in general are service providers. So please do your due diligence. Don't regret taking the less expensive route over the safer route. And we would love to hear from you and have you, interview us for a potential handyman for any of the needs that you have. Anything you would like to add to this, Phil?
Well, just to reiterate, a lot of problems people have with contractors are avoidable. If they would just do some good due diligence, understand who they're getting, understand what they're getting, and be prepared to pay a fair price for the work. If you follow those three things, your chances of getting burned by a contractor are very low.
Sure. Okay. All right.
So, well, good luck to you, and keep
this
us in
is
mind,
wonderful.
and give us a call, and we'll take good care of you.
All right. Have a great day, everybody.
Bye, everybody.